4, that is embedded system design concepts. We have seen some introductory concepts with respect to this particular model. I hope all of you gone through this previous video. So I started with the content of the module. Then we have gone through the characteristics of the embedded systems like application domain specific, reactive and real time, operates in harsh environment, distributed, small size and weight, power concerns, right? Then we have seen quality attributes of the embedded systems with respect to operational quality attributes. We have response, throughput, reliability, maintainability, scheduled or periodic maintenance, maintenance to unexpected failure. Here I give example of printer, right? Then we have seen security and safety, right? Now we'll go to the second part of quality attributes of embedded system, that is non-operational quality attributes. Okay, now the quality attributes that need to be addressed for the product not on the basis of operational aspects are grouped under this category. The important quality attributes coming under this category are listed below. Okay, one by one we'll see. First one is testability and debuggability. Here the testability deals with how easily one can test his or her design application and by which means he or she can test it. For an embedded product, testability is applicable to both the embedded hardware and firmware. Embedded hardware testing ensures that the peripherals and the total hardware functions in the desired manner, whereas firmware testing ensures that the firmware is functioning in the expected way. Debuggability is the means of debugging the product as such for figuring out the probable sources that create unexpected behavior in the total system. Debuggability has two aspects in embedded system development context, namely hardware level debugging and firmware level debugging. Hardware debugging is used for figuring out the issues created by hardware problems, whereas firmware debugging is employed to figure out the problems or probable errors that appear as a result of flaws in the firmware, right? So this is with respect to testability and debuggability. Next we have evolvability. Here this is a term which is closely related to biology, so is referred to as the non-heritable variation. For an embedded system, the quality attribute evolvability refers to the ease with which embedded product, including firmware and hardware, can be modified to take advantage of new firmware or hardware technologies. Next we have portability. Here portability is a measure of system independence. An embedded product is said to be portable if the product is capable of functioning as such in various environments, target processors or controllers, and embedded operating systems. The ease with which an embedded product can be ported onto a new platform is a direct measure of the rework required. Standard embedded product should always be flexible and portable, right? Uh, for example, in embedded products, the term porting represents the migration of embedded firmware written for one target processor. For example, if we consider Intel 8086 to a different target processor such as Hitachi SH3 processors. So whatever firmware that we have written for 8086, if it can be easily ported to Hitachi SH3, then we call it as its portable firmware. If the firmware is written in high level language like C with little target processor specific functions, that is operating system extensions or compiler specific utilities, it is very easy to port the firmware for the new processor by replacing those target processor specific functions with the one for the new target processor and recompiling the program for the new target processor specific settings. Recompiling the program for the new target processor generates the new target processor specific machine code. If the firmware is written in assembly language for a particular family of processors such as 8086, which is from Intel, it will be very difficult to translate the assembly language instructions to the new target processor specific language, and so the portability becomes poor. The next one, the next non-operational quality attribute is time to prototype and market. In industry, they also call it as T2M. T stands for time, to M for market. Time to market is time elapsed between the conceptualization of a product and time at which the product is ready for selling for commercial product or for use for non-commercial products. The commercial embedded product market is highly competitive, and time to market the product is a critical factor in the success of commercial embedded product. Right? If you come up with a new design and if it takes a long time to develop and market it, the competitor product may take advantage of it with their product. Also, embedded technology is one where rapid technology change is happening. If you start your design by making use of new technology and it is and if it takes long time to develop and market the product, by the time you market the product, the technology might have superseded with the new technology. That should not happen. So you have to release your particular product within the deadline at the right time, then only you will get the expected profit, or else you are going to face a huge loss, because by that time your competitor may introduce the same product with the same technology and he will capture the market share. If the prototype is developed faster, the actual estimated development time can be brought down significantly. In order to shorten the time to prototype, make use of all possible options like the use of off-the-shelf components, reusable assets, etc. The next quality attributes with respect to non-operational is per unit and total cost. Cost is a factor which is closely monitored by both end users, that is the buyer of the product and the producer of the product. Cost is a highly sensitive factor for commercial products. Any failure to position the cost of a commercial product at a nominal rate may lead to the failure of the product in the market. Proper market study and cost benefit analysis should be carried out before taking a decision on the per unit cost of the embedded product. So you should be knowing the market. Then only you can decide how much cost I can fix per unit. From a designer or product development company perspective, the ultimate aim of the product is to generate marginal profit, right? So the budget and the total system cost should be properly balanced to provide marginal profit. Every embedded product has product life cycle, which starts with the design and development phase. Here I have shown you one graph. All of you can have a look here, right? So this is a graph which shows the product life cycle curve. This is how it looks, right? The product idea generation, prototyping, roadmap definition, actual product design and development are the activities carried out during this phase. During the design and development phase, please refer to the graph shown in the slide. During the design and development phase, there is only investment and no return. Okay, once the product is ready to sell, it is introduced to the market. The whole graph has been divided into some 5 verticals. The first vertical or the first column is product development, second one is product introduction, third growth, then product maturity and product retirement. So we'll see all these columns one by one. The first one is product development. During the design and development phase, there is only investment and no return. Okay, that's why we are not shown any profit there. Once the product is ready to sell, it is introduced to the market. This stage is known as the product introduction stage, right? Slowly we have shown some profit, that too in a negative, because lot of expenditure has been done for R&D. During the initial period, the sales and revenues will be low. There won't be much competition and the product sales and revenues increase with time. In the growth phase, the product grabs high market. You can see slowly the product sale is increasing in the growth column. During the maturity phase, the growth and sale will be steady and the revenue reaches at its peak. You can see during the product maturity phase, the highest number of products will be sold into the market. The next column is product retirement or decline phase, starts with the drop in sales, volume, market share and revenue. The decline happens due to various reasons. It may be because of like the competition from the similar product with enhanced features, which most of us have seen with respect to mobile market, right? Technology changes, etc. At some point of decline stage, the manufacturer announces discontinuing of the product. right? Once again, you can easily take analogy of mobile market, because most of us are used to see the market in day-to-day life. The different stages of the embedded product life cycle, revenue, unit cost, and profit in each stage are represented in the following, as I told in this graph. From the graph, it is clear that the total revenue increases from product introduction stage to the product maturity stage. You can see the increase in the product sales. If product sales increases, obviously profit will increase. The revenue peaks at the maturity stage and starts falling the decline or retirement stage. The unit cost is very high during the introductory stage. Typical example is a cell phone. If you buy a new model, let it be from Samsung or from Apple or any company, initially if you buy a new model of a cell phone during its launch time, the price will be very high, right? And you might have seen all big companies will introduce a new models, a new version of the models every 6 months or to 1 year, and you will get the same model with a very reduced price, not very intentionally, to some extent reduced price after 3 or 4 months after its launching. For example, just think about a mobile whose present cost today, launching cost is 15,000. If you try to buy the same mobile phone after some 5 to 6 months, then obviously the cost will reduce to 10 to 11,000. You are going to save around 4,000, but it will happen after 5 to 6 months. The profit increases with increase in the sales and attains a steady value, then falls with a dip in sale. You can see negative value for profit during initial period, right? As shown in the product introduction phase, you can see the profit curve is in negative. It is because during the product development phase, there is only investment and no returns. Profit occurs only when the total returns exceed the investment and operating cost. Okay, so I will be stopping today's video here only. All of you, please go through the content once again and try to understand. From the next class, I will start with the next part of the video. Thank you.